Hopefully my dog remains chill, but if you hear a dog, I apologize.
I also have a dog on the other side of the wall that is ruining my life, so it'll be fine. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the October Literally Dead Book Club live show. We read The Treasure Hunters Club by Tom Ryan. Just a reminder of this current month we're in. For November, we're reading Futility by Mizu Ono. I'm so excited to talk about this with everybody at the end of November. Live show is on the 30th, so get to it. But today we're chatting about this, and I already put a poll in the comments because I know at this time of year, like, we get so bogged down with our TBRs that I think a good amount of people might have not have gotten to it. So I really hope this poll gives an indication of how like everybody in the comments felt about it, so it can help you decide if you need to get to it or not, and if you want to actually watch all the spoilers we're going to talk about, or if you want to come back to this live show once you've finished it. First, we're going to start with introductions. If everybody wants to share their name, channel. I think Bria's frozen, at least on my screen. I was like,
she's just really happy.
Me too for a second. I was like, wait, she's stuck.
Oh no.
Any recent like favorite mystery, thriller, or horror books? Because that's what we're honed in on this book club. Let us know that. Awesome. Kayla, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm also Kayla, named twins, but I am at Palettes and Pages on all platforms. I generally make just content about all the different kind of books I read, but I also really enjoy gaming as well. I like to match like games with books, especially like cozy games. So if you're into that, I post some things about that. And then my favorite genres to read are typically fantasy, literary fiction, and horror. But I've been really into thrillers recently, which is why like I have been searching through all the recs that you guys give. And I think there's some of my recent favorites. One I wanted to mention was inspired by Kayla, horror movie by Paul Tremblay. I literally finished like 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
And I really enjoyed it. It was a wild time, but I really liked it. Another one I really enjoyed recently was the Spirit Collection of Thorn Hall by J. Ann Thomas. That one was really fun. It's like a paranormal horror romance question mark, kind of. It's a really unique concept of she's kind of like trapped in this mansion that her family has been like cursed to live with these spirits, and she can't leave. But this boy, the boy comes along and she's like, well, I kind of want to leave for him, but then she has to deal with all the spirits. So that one was really good.
Can you say the title of that again?
Yeah, The Spirit Collection of Thorn Hall. It's really good. I think you would really like it, actually. And then the last one, that one's really good. And then also, I just finished The Dream Hotel as well by Layla Lalami, I think is how you pronounce her name. And I believe, Kayla, this was on one of your want to reads, and that's what inspired me to read it, and it was really good. That one, I think,
love that.
Yeah, it leans more like sci-fi, but I feel like it has some thriller vibes because it's like dystopian, futuristic, and there's a lot of like really tense moments, and some of the twists and reveals definitely give horror vibes. So those are some of my recent reads I've really enjoyed, and all of them, I think I did all of them on audiobook, and the narrators were really great too. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you for that intro. I love when I influence someone's TBR when I haven't read a book yet. That happens to me all the time because I'll haul all of these books and I'll be like, I want to read this. And someone will be like, oh my God, I read it because of you. I gave it 5 stars. And I'm like, I haven't even read it. But I'm glad, I'm glad I can influence people. And now like you come back and influence me to read it.
I'll recommend it back. We'll do a reverse card.
That's perfect. Okay, we're going to skip over Bria. I think she's probably having technical difficulties, but I'm sure she'll come back. Adrienne, want to give us a little intro?
Sure. So my channel is Adrienne Reads. I'm really only posting on YouTube right now, but I love reading mysteries, thriller, horror. This year I have been branching out a bit more into sci-fi, which has been fun. On my channel, I'm also doing a lot of like reorganizing my bookshelf, setting up my reading room, on hauls and things. But my favorite horror recently, so I've been in a little Stephen King moment recently. So I've read some of his more popular ones, The Shining, Pet Sematary, The Long Walk. But my favorite, and which is my first 5-star Stephen King, is actually Christine. So I feel like that's not the most popular one, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I've had a lot of 3 and 4 star mysteries and thrillers this year, so try to branch out a little bit more.
I'm very interested to see what everybody thought of this one. Okay, Bria's internet is not doing well.
Aw.
Hopefully we'll see her again. Okay, I guess I did put a poll, but if everyone wants to put their rating in the comments, then I can get a good idea because I can't actually see the poll from this view. So I would like to see what everybody thought of it. It seems like what I saw in the Fable group is it seems to be a lot of like 3 stars. And I think there are some people who went a little higher than that and people who went a little bit lower than that. But that's the general consensus. I will say the average rating on Goodreads is a 3.7, and it's a little higher than I expected. Based on the book that I was reading. Not to give away my rating, but if you each want to share yours with a little explanation of why before we get into any spoilers, just a brief summary. I like to call it like a 1-sentence review of why you gave it the rating that you gave it.
I would say for me, I literally finished it last night. So I'm still kind of like sitting with my rating. Sometimes it can take me a little bit longer to solidify, but I think I'm going to go with a 3.5, leaning to 3.75, either one for me. I normally am not that granular, but this book makes me feel granular. I don't know. But for my kind of like 1-sentence review is while the plot did feel chaotic, it also felt very like whimsical and cozy in a way. Until closer to the end, some things changed, but I was really intrigued to see like what happened next with the characters, where they ended up. And that was kind of what kept me propelling going through. It was like how intriguing some of the characters were to me. So that's like my little summary.
I'm very similar. So I think I started at a 4 when I first finished it, and then it slowly ticked down to maybe a 3.5.
Yeah.
I was reading a lot of darker stuff before it, so I was just there having a good time. We're on an adventure. There were some good surprises and reveals, but yeah, the chaos, how convoluted it became, the 100 characters we were following, like that kind of took down the enjoyment a bit.
That's fair. I ended up giving it a 3. When I first finished it, I was like, I think this is a 3.5. And then as I thought about it more, I was like, I think it's a 3. Like objectively, I feel like this is a 3-star book. I don't think that this is something that would be anybody's new favorite, but I don't think there's a lot to hate about it. So that's where I landed with my 3. That wasn't 1 sentence. My actual sentence, I said it wasn't written well, but I liked the journey and the reveal is what made it worth it to me. Otherwise, it would have been more like a 2. Bria, if you can hear us, I'm so sorry you're having issues. If you want to give us your intro and your rating of the book, you came back in at the perfect time.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Bria. I have a YouTube channel, Tales of Tales. I mostly read sci-fi and like mystery, thriller, horror. Sometimes I sprinkle a little romance in there, but I'm definitely pickier when it comes to romance for sure. And my rating, I gave it a 3.25. I struggled a bit through this. My rating is mostly because I liked the pacing and the plot of the story, but I struggled with the characters a lot. And I feel like the characters were a big piece of the story, and I just didn't really feel connected to them. So 3.25.
Perfect summary. The actual summary I skipped over. Adrian, could you give us a brief explanation of what this book actually is for the people who just come to every live show and they don't read the book and they want to know what the heck we're talking about?
Sure. So it's a mystery set in a small seaside town where, according to legend, there's a pirate treasure buried there from the 1800s. So we're following a lot of characters over multiple generations, locals and newcomers who are searching for the treasure, and along the way uncovering old secrets, lies, and danger. There's murder. So it's an adventure looking for treasure.
And you didn't seem confident that you could do it, but that's the perfect summary.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we are going to get into spoilers so we can fully talk about everything we want to talk about. My first question is going to be, what character's perspective did you enjoy most? If there's one person or multiple people, just getting to that, I want to cover your faces. So the main character that we have in the book who's written in first person is Peter. And then we have Cass and Dandy who are written in third person. And we also have Henry's like confessional letters throughout the story. So I would say those are our main character perspectives. But also if you have any, side characters that you preferred, who was your favorite? Or, okay, sorry. I kind of have two questions actually. It's like, what perspective did you enjoy most? Like, did you enjoy going to? And then like more personally after that, we can talk about which character we maybe enjoyed as a person or we could relate to. Which perspective did you like getting back to? Like, was there one that you enjoyed reading the most?
Yeah, I do think that those are, for me, they're kind of similar. But I know we're in spoiler territory, but this is getting a little bit ahead. But I enjoyed Peter's perspective the most in the beginning, because I feel like the most was happening during his chapters, especially early on. Like it does take a bit to kind of get into the meat of the story. So I felt like when we were returning to Peter's perspective, we were getting more like nuggets of information, seeing him interact with the others. And I did immediately clock that his was in first person and the rest was in third. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I love when authors kind of play with like narrative choices like that. Some of which I think could have been executed better for sure. But I would say Peter and also Dandy. I enjoyed Dandy's. Dandy she was a very interesting character. So I would say them two, but personally, like who I felt like I related to the most was also Peter. I have, without getting too deep into it, I relate to some of the familial estrangement aspects of like his struggle. So I thought that was really well done. So that's my answer. I think the most enjoyable, like where I wanted to go back to, was Peter and Dandy. I mean, I kind of related the most to Peter's character.
Yeah, so I would agree. I literally in my notes wrote like Peter. I feel like he was the only POV that I felt like I got real insight into like the mystery and the story. And I felt like his POV was like the only one that kind of kept the story moving forward, at least towards like most of the beginning of the book. And then obviously I love the fact, are we in deep?
Yeah.
Okay. Being two POVs, I was like, okay, I'm getting, two birds with one stone kind of thing. But then I would say that this is probably going to be a controversial opinion, but I would say the one that I relate to the most would be Cass. And that's only because like part of it, I'm like, girl, why are you even here?
Relatable for sure.
Pick up your life and like move across the country to do something completely random. But aside from that, I was kind of confused of like what her whole point of really being there was in the story. I liked Dandy, but I feel like Dandy and Cass were kind of like the same in my head. Like it was just like one female character in my head kind of as I was reading it. And I think that's just because Cass was so unimportant to the story to me. But yeah.
My favorite POV to read from, and I guess my favorite character too, was Dandy. When I was switching between perspectives, I was having trouble keeping track of which person knew what information and like who's met who. So Dandy, since she was the local, she had the best like base knowledge of the town. I thought it was more fun to read from her perspective. And then also she was the most emotionally invested in what was happening. She was, a bigger part of the town and of what was going on. So she's my favorite to read from. And then also the writing style kind of felt young adult. So when we were following a teenager, I was like, this feels right.
That's such a great point. I love how we all also had different answers because my favorite was Henry when we were in the journal entries. And that's usually not me. I usually don't love the long letters that we get in historical fiction. But for me, the number one thing I struggled with this book was the writing and the dialogue. I found it really contrived. I found it really convenient. And I think where the author shined was in letters and when it was supposed to be over dramatic and just like the way you write in a journal. And so when we were reading letters and confessionals, that's what I was really enjoying about the story. So I would say my favorite was getting the answers from Henry's past. I also really liked Mirabelle.
I did too.
And I wish somebody said they wish that she was around longer. And I completely agree. I wasn't, not to get into the question about like what you saw coming, what was surprising. I didn't even know, like I couldn't predict Mirabelle was going to die. I couldn't predict she was going to die so early. So I would have liked more from her for sure.
I agree.
And then this is so funny because we all have such different feelings. Didn't like the journal entries because they were too wordy. I disagree. I love books that are just somebody's internal monologue for pages and pages and pages. So I really liked Henry. I found myself I shouldn't have gotten Dandy and Cass mixed up because they were distinct characters, but I found myself sometimes in the middle of chapters forgetting who I was reading from. There was actually one specific chapter later in the book that I'll tell you about, which is kind of crazy that I forgot what perspective we were in because I thought a plot twist was happening that wasn't actually happening. But we'll get into that.
I agree. I struggled sometimes too with like, I feel like it could have been more clearly distincted, like who you were reading from and like what, like sometimes I was like, what timeline are we in? Are we in the past? Are we in the future? Like, I'm so confused. I agree about that for sure.
Yeah, Cass felt a little pointless, I think.
Yeah.
Like she didn't add the most to the story. So when I was in her perspective, I was like, I'm not going to learn anything in this chapter, I don't think.
It's funny that you preferred Henry because anytime I was reading and it was getting later, when it was a Henry chapter, I was like, all right, time to go to bed.
No.
It was just that he made a lot of bad decisions, of course, but before he made them, he's like, oh, I could have done this and everything would have went better. And you find out what he actually did. I was just getting sick of him.
I felt bad for him. He made me feel sad.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like there's a lot of points in the book where I was like rolling my eyes because I'm like, all right, I just know you make another horrible decision that is now impacting people years and years later. And I'm like, all of this literally could have been avoided with like 2 sentences coming out of your mouth. And so,
fair.
Yeah.
Very true.
Oh, I think that a lot of us, like since we're in the book community and we talk about books and what we like about books and we try to find book recommendations, I think we use like keywords to try to figure that out. And so we kind of identify ourselves, I've noticed, as like a plot-focused reader or a character-focused reader. Like what is most important to you, I guess, as a reader? And where does this one rank as like the most well done portion for you? Like what was the most enjoyable part for you? Was it the plot, the characters, the themes, or the writing?
I would say for me, typically what is most important to me is the characters. Like if you give me a book that is low plot but high character development or high investment in the characters, I will still love it. But if you give me a book that like has the most like dramatic, like cool plot, but it has like very flat characters, I won't necessarily love it. So there was a lot of pros and cons with this for me because I like a book that follows multiple characters, like a large cast. There's several books that I enjoy that piece. So I liked the characters I definitely really enjoyed Henry's journal entries as well. And I liked reading about the original Treasure Hunters Club in those journal entries. So I kind of wish this would have had more flashbacks to like those moments when they were originally in the club and a little bit more about their backstories. So that is something that I did enjoy, but I do feel like the characters just kind of go off the rails. So it's like what I enjoy and also what I wish would have been done a little bit better. But I also really liked the atmosphere in the book. Like I liked the way that Maple Bay was described. I've never read a book set in Nova Scotia before, so that was really cool. So yeah, that's a little bit of kind of like what I typically look for, what I enjoyed, and also kind of what I think could have been done better. So.
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely a plot-driven reader because I feel like sometimes if the characters aren't fully fleshed out, I'm still invested enough to figure out like how the story is going to end if the plot is juicy enough for me. And I feel like I kind of felt like that through this story because I personally think the characters are a little all over the place. And so that wasn't what kept me wanting to read. I was actually really curious about like where did the treasure kind of end up? And I mean, even the first half of the story, I was like, I'm not even sure where this is going, but like, I'm intrigued enough to kind of keep reading and try to figure out like what's happening. And so I would say for me, it goes plot. And then I think it goes writing because again, if the characters aren't necessarily doing it for me, if the writing style is like very digestible, which I do think this writing style was really like easy to read and kind of, I mentioned I rolled my eyes a lot, But I was like rolling my eyes and still being like, okay, let me keep reading though, because I actually am kind of intrigued to see where the story is going. But I do think characters for me can make or break a story though, even though it's not as important to me, right? So I think that's where I struggled with this story, because I think, and Kayla, you mentioned this, that like I think I would have been more intrigued if this was set in the past and maybe we followed the original Treasure Hunters Club.
Yeah.
And maybe it would be, you know, the Treasure Hunters Club as they're adults, or like, or they're still older, as they were still trying to figure out this mystery, instead of from like some of the younger POVs. I think I probably would have preferred that more. I just think because the characters and like the relationship dynamics were lacking. I loved Dandy and like her grandfather. I felt like that was the only relationship that I was invested in and that like kind of made sense to me. I think all the other relationships were so surface level that I just like really did not care at all. And so that was a struggle for me. But yeah.
I'm also very plot driven when I'm reading, but I need good supporting characters. And I feel like that was kind of missing here. I didn't feel like I had anyone that I was rooting for. I was really just focused on the plot. Where's the treasure? And I didn't really care who got it. I just want to know where it was. So yeah, the writing wasn't great. The themes weren't great, but the plot was definitely intriguing enough. And again, with those little twists that happened, that's the best part of this one.
I think I am a character-focused reader, but also a plot-focused reader. But I think when books have such egregious editing errors, I'm like, oh, I'm a writing girl. Oh, okay. I really care about the writing, because I think I could have given this a 5 as far as the plot and the characters and like what we were actually doing. Like, I just thought it was interesting and it was fun, but it was poorly written. I really struggled with the editing. And I'm trying to think, like, was this not edited at all? Or do you think there were so many mistakes that they managed to miss so many because there were already so many they had to fix? That's what I'm trying to think. Because like there were moments, Dandy is 3 different ages in this book. She was in 9th grade, then she was 17, then she was 15. There was a moment where it said like a couple weeks had passed, but then in the next chapter, only a couple hours had passed. And I was like, oh, we're doing different timelines. But no, the author forgot what he was talking about. What else happened? Somebody put a notebook back in their pocket 3 different times in one scene. That was crazy. I just think it needed a little more attention to detail. And for me, the writing I struggled with because the dialogue just was that very Hallmark vibe of like, hey, stepsister, remember when your friend died in that house fire and you had to, and now let's go to this place where we spent our childhood trying to reconnect with nature. It like felt like every conversation was just to let us as the reader know what was happening rather than natural dialogue. So I think writing would be at the bottom for me as far as the strength of the book. I think the plot was the most interesting thing because like who doesn't love a treasure hunting story? Yeah, I think that's everything I want to say. I liked the themes is because I feel like we were starting to go into a direction of like privilege and talking about, discrimination, but then it didn't really go that far. And it's like kind of fair because it's a cozy, but I liked the idea of the themes. I just don't think the author knew how to really handle them. And so he just didn't.
Yeah, I got that too. And when I was reading it at certain points, I felt like they were trying to send a message of like greed and selfishness and like that sort of direction. But it never really like fully pursued any of those things. It just kind of left them hanging and like up to interpretation.
Yeah, I think one of the things that they talked about without actually saying, when you talk about treasures, like treasures usually cursed, right? And a lot of death and all the things that happen. So they never actually said it. But I was like, are we just seeing what happens when there's treasure because it's cursed?
That's a good point.
That's a good point. Yeah. Treasure Planet vibes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did anyone have a favorite scene they want to share?
I would say for me, I liked the stuff towards the end where we get more, it was really sad, but we get more information about like Susan, Peter's mom. And we start to get like those reveals and like reading the letters that like it was really sad, but I felt like it had some emotional impact of like reading her writing to her dad and trying to be back involved in their lives. And I liked those because I felt like they finally like gave me, I do feel like it was very rushed towards the end. Like, I don't know if you guys felt the same way. I felt like it was like, okay, and this happened and this happened. And this is actually, she knew all along what was going on. But also, side note, I saw somebody say this in the live chat earlier, but any scene with Banjo in it, which there wasn't enough of the dog. I love a good dog in a book, but he wasn't in there enough.
Yeah, one of my questions is something you would change about the book later on, and the number one thing I wrote down is where'd the dog go? Like, why? You're taking care of a dog full time. I don't think you're spending enough time with this dog.
Wait, did you guys think that there was going to be something about Banjo and Bill Jinx because of the way Banjo kept going up to him on the beach? I was like, is there some secret relationship with the trappers? But
yeah, I thought there was going to be something, or like Banjo was going to solve a mystery. Like, I thought he was going to be like a real sidekick.
Correct. Yeah. And the trapper stuff also just like disappeared, right? And did I miss something, or nothing ever happened with like that family that was like owned the house? Like, I thought they were like luring her there to like kidnap her or something, but that kind of just dissipated. I was like, I feel like there could have been some other like mysteries happening that just kind of like, maybe it was supposed to be a misdirect potentially, but yeah.
I love how you guys are actually thinking about this. When I tell you, I was like trying to hold on for dear life, trying to figure out like all of these characters connected to each other. So the fact that you guys are even able to piece together like what happened to the dog, I forgot about that freaking dog. It's like, oh my gosh, I just think because of the way it was written, I was literally just like, okay, I'm trying to follow this story. There's so many like old characters with the same last name, new characters with the same last name. What is their relation again? Who's the one that died in the hole? Who's the one that killed him? Who's in jail? Like I was barely holding on. So I think my favorite scene just I kind of go back to Dandy and like her grandfather. I feel like anything where we kind of talked about their relationship, because again, I think that's the only like tangible one, and I think helped me kind of put in place like Dandy's, I guess, reason for trying to find the treasure, and just like the little like secrets that they had. And I think it just said a lot and gave some insight into their relationship, again, because all the other relationships seemed pretty shallow. So
my favorite scene was, well, I lived for a plot twist. So the Ricky reveal that Ricky was actually Peter, that was fun. I was so convinced that Bryson, the one Cass was dating, was going to kill her that I was very distracted by that red herring. That definitely worked on me. So Peter being the actual troubled one, that was really fun. Very shocking that Peter was in the basement getting beat up the whole time, but it was a fun plot twist, very unexpected.
Yeah, I too was very hyper focused on Bryson. I think I wrote in the Fable chat like 3 times. I was like, it's so obvious that Bryson's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I guess not.
No,
my favorite scene, I think, is, as I was reflecting on it, I was like, the ones that stood out most in my mind are the ones that included Bill for some reason. Bill Jinx, like when he showed up at the church really inappropriately at the funeral and like started going off on everybody. The moment where I think I don't know which girl it was. One of them showed up on the beach and was like metal detecting, trying to find the treasure or whatever. And Bill showed up and he was like, what's that? And I was like, you're an 80, 90-year-old man. You don't know what a metal detector is. You live in a small town on a beach. You're hunting for treasure. And you're like, what's that? That's one of those moments where it just felt very contrived. It's like it couldn't just say, oh, she has a metal detector. It had to go, what's that? Oh, this is a metal detector.
It's literally a town full of tourists that come to find treasure. There's probably hundreds of metal detectors on the beach.
He lives on the beach. But you've never seen a metal detector in your 90 years. I just love that because I don't know, the interactions with Bill, I had a good time with. And then when they found, was it Bill's diary? Now I feel like I'm getting mixed up with people. When he was digging and it said like day 1, nothing. Day 2 of digging, nothing. Day 3 of digging, nothing. I just love that. I was like, this is so stupid. So Bill wasn't my favorite character, but all of my favorite scenes happened to have him in it. Did you have any least favorite scenes?
I know we kind of touched on this, but a lot of the stuff with Cass, I just did not care about personally. Especially like I do think that it definitely was the goal was to be a red herring, especially the scene in the boat. Which I know I saw some people talk about this in the Fable app, but like, why? Why did you get in the boat with this man you don't know?
Crazy.
So like I feel like that was really like a misdirection, but it felt like it was supposed to go somewhere. Like, also, did we ever find out who he was on the phone with? Like, did I miss that? Because he was on like a phone call and it was kind of like aggressive, so it made us think that it was him doing something.
I thought it was
the
with
realtor?
the realtor Margot. I think it was
Got it.
Margot.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of getting mixed up in my mind, but I just didn't really love those scenes. I think it took a long time to get to the setup of her house sitting for that to not go anywhere. So yeah, really all of those scenes were my least favorites.
Yeah, I literally also put Cass on that boat because, one, why are you on the boat with this man that you 2 days ago? And then 2, it pissed me off because I'm like, if you're on a treasure hunt, you need to learn how to keep a secret. Like, you are just spilling the beans immediately, and you signed up to be a part of a treasure hunt. And so she upset me on that one. But to your point, like almost anything with Cass is kind of like, what the point? What is the point? But then especially that scene on the boat. And then after figuring out that like he was a red herring, it was really like, okay, well, you guys probably could have kept that character, but yeah.
Yeah, it turns out Bryson was just like a good guy and they're in love at the end, I guess. So
yeah, incredible. Good for them.
He was just working to better the town. Good for him.
Love that for him.
My least favorite scene was definitely Dandy dumping the treasure into the ocean.
Because why?
Hate the theme of there are more important things than money. Like, her mom was just begging to rent a house from her sister not too long ago. They obviously need money, and she was just given a house. So maybe to you right now, there's more important things than money, but at least donate it to charity if you don't want your friends to have it. Like, that was so upsetting.
Or split it in half, like dump half of it, keep half for yourself. Like, I hate when books, I don't know if this was supposed to be a moral lesson, but I hate when books give a moral lesson when there's something more intelligent somebody could have done. We don't need this grand message of like, oh, well. And then I like the idea. I do like the idea of she put it back in the ocean. She didn't hide it. She didn't like bury it somewhere. She put it back in the water where like somebody else will be looking for it. Somebody else is going to find the treasure. But then like, what if that's a bad person? Or what if, like she could have done something good with it. And it just seems so silly.
I saw somebody say in Fable, the treasure was the friends we made along the way. And I laughed so hard. It was so funny.
I also got so mad at Peter at the beginning when he found out that his aunt and uncle had like stolen $80,000 from him. And then he went and he was like, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, I'm not going to sue them. And I'm like, bitch, I would take $80,000. You stole from me my entire life and I don't even like you. Like, give me $80,000. Thanks.
Everyone was way too chill about that, including Mirabelle. She was just like, oh, that's unfortunate. Like,
yeah, we could have done something towards the town, like anything. Anything would have been better than dropping it into the ocean at the end.
And does that mean she's going to let that big archaeology crew come dig up the forest and not say anything?
That's a good point. I didn't think about that
either.
Okay, let's talk about reveals. The ones that surprised you or you saw coming. I guess like the number one reveal is the fact that we're reading this entire book from a perspective that's fake. Someone who's pretending to be Peter. That is my personal favorite plot twist of all time. I've only read it in like a handful of books, and every time it gets me so good, and I instantly give that book an extra star because I love the idea of an author being able to mislead me. And because, like I said, this book was not, in my opinion, written very well, I didn't think he was going to pull that off. I wasn't really trying to decipher what this man was doing with this book. I was like, okay, it's just a cozy little mystery. And then so that moment really got me because Ricky was such a nothing character. He was only in the first chapter. How could we have predicted that he would be holding Peter in the basement? I thought that was a fantastic reveal.
I did too. I actually really enjoyed that. And I read a lot of thrillers. I read a lot of like twisty books, and there's not a lot that catches me off guard anymore, but it did catch me off guard. I audibly was like, oh. And while I don't think it was the most like creative or like impactful, like it did shock me. So I really did like that. Also, the first kind of like overtly like dark moment where Henry sees them like beat up that kid to death in the woods over the treasure. I forget which one it was, but like when he witnesses that like death in the woods around the treasure, and he kind of just like turns the other cheek and like pretends he doesn't see it. Like I was like, wow, okay, this is taking a much darker turn than I anticipated. Because like you said, it was kind of set up to be this cozy, like I felt like it wasn't going to make that like dramatic of an entrance. So that also, while it wasn't necessarily a twist, it was kind of surprising to me to see that happen in the past through Henry's letters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I was shook and shaken when I realized that Ricky was pretending to be Peter. I just really didn't see it coming. And to be fair, I think going like in the beginning of the book, I thought I had it all figured out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like an easy, cozy mystery. I know everything. I can predict everything. And then when that happened, I was like, oh my God, hold on. I actually know nothing. But yeah, I think I really enjoyed the kind of like Ricky kind of, pulling the wool over your eyes type of situation. And to your point, I was surprised that it got as dark as it did, especially as we did flip over to Ricky's perspective and just learning like everything he did to kind of get to where he was. So
yeah,
I would like to think I could predict certain things, but then I was just like completely wrong at them. So appreciated that from the book for sure, which is why I think it even got like the 3.25 for me. It probably would have been lower if the author hadn't done that. So yeah, just kind of like everybody else, I really enjoyed that plot twist.
Yeah, agreed. If we didn't have the big plot twist, I don't know what I would have rated it. But I definitely didn't predict Ricky at all. And I do remember noticing how the chapters weren't labeled with whose point of view we were reading from. And I was like, oh, just another writing issue. But maybe it's actually intentional because he didn't want to lie and say that it's Peter's perspective that we're reading from. So that was really cool. But also, I really thought it was a cozy mystery for a good portion of the book. And then it did get darker. So I definitely didn't think Mirabelle was murdered. I was surprised that the police did not assume she was murdered because a stranger is living in her house that would be the sole inheritor of her fortune. But it taking that darker turn, and once we had a few more murders, I was like, oh. And then there's more murders, and there's murders from the past, and there's dead bodies under the house. And I was like, I did not expect there to be so many dead bodies. So that was surprising.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect Ricky to kill so many people. Like, It was like, oh, he killed Bonnie and then he killed this person. I was like, okay. And then he gets pushed off the roof by our lovely little, that's Dandy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of my next ones is favorite quotes. And one of mine is when Dandy goes, I'm nothing if not nimble. That was great.
Yeah.
That was mine too, because it was like, he had to keep saying that so that it could explain why she can run around and escape everything. So I was like, yeah, it's actually a good idea. You kept saying that.
I think Dandy has like all of my favorite quotes when I think for the first half of the book, it didn't really establish her character as being a really like Nancy Drew or like Harriet the Spy kind of like, I don't know. And then it got really quippy and she was very much like, I don't have time for relationship chatter. And like, oh, I heard home ownership's a bitch. Like, I was like, you're 14? Like, why are we talking like this to adults? And she called all of them by their first name. That's when I was like, you are not a ninth grader. Like, this is so confusing to me. She said, like, someone complimented her outfit and she goes, I didn't come here for fashion advice. I was like, okay, let's get to the point, Dandy.
Yeah, Detective Trench.
Actually, no, I'll keep it on quotes. I wanted to say something else, but I'll go to a different question for that. Okay, any other favorite quotes?
I liked all the same ones that you mentioned from Dandy. Nothing really stood out to me. I am a quotes girl, and I was like ready to tab because I did tab this book mainly just like to try to keep up with the plot twist and like what was happening and any clues. But I didn't have any quotes that really like I wanted to mention. So that's the Dandy being herself.
It's not really like we've been saying. It's not the most well written book, so it's not like there are these incredible moments to pull.
Yeah, no favorite quotes for me either. I'm just anyway. So
that's real.
I was like trying. I was looking at the question. And I was kind of like going back through the book, and I was like, nope. I was like, I'm just gonna leave this one blank. Nothing to add.
Adrian, you don't have any extra ones?
Oh, no, just the nimble. That was really the only quote-worthy thing.
Okay, my next question is, what changes would you make to this story? Because I just kind of came into this live show assuming none of us gave it 5 stars, and I wasn't. So any changes that you want to share that you think the book should have had? One, I just want to talk briefly about what happened to me in my experience, because I was going back and forth between the audiobook and the physical book, which was a bad idea. And I was halfway through a chapter and had forgotten whose perspective we were in. I thought we were reading from Cass and we were still on the boat when we got the Peter reveal. So what happened for me is I was reading it and I thought Bryson was revealed to be taking Peter's identity. Because halfway through the chapter, I just thought we were reading from Cass. I thought we were on the boat. And then then Peter arrives and he's like, I'm not really Peter. And I was like, good, Bryson is the bad guy. And then I got to the next chapter and it was about Bryson. And I was like, I just read that chapter completely wrong. It was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And so now I wish that was the reveal. I do wish that Bryson was the bad guy, because I don't know. I want there to be a good reason behind him being annoying, and I want him to be a killer. Like, he was mansplaining so much in this book and it was driving me crazy. Like, I don't like when authors write to us as the reader, like as treating the characters as the reader, as if like the characters know everything the reader knows. Because like every time Cass would have an interaction with somebody, she would say, oh, I'm new to town. And then they would just go off on a tangent teaching her about something. But then when she met Bryson, he was like, have you heard about the obelisk treasure? And she was like, yeah, I have. And he goes, the obelisk treasure was this time in history when there was this boat. And I was like, she just said she knew about it. Why are you teaching her? Shut the fuck up. Like, he was driving me so crazy. And so I wanted him to be a killer. And so I really liked that reveal. And then it turns out it wasn't the reveal. And I'm an idiot. So that's what I would have changed.
It could just be your headcanon. I did already mention this, but I agree still. Like, I think if we could add in some more of the past in throughout the book, I think that might have eliminated the need to feel like the current cast of characters needed to explain what was happening more. If you got more of like flashbacks, either with the more journal entries or maybe just like moments in time from like Mirabelle's perspective or Henry's perspective, I think that could have added some additional like context to us as the reader that maybe would have eliminated some of those annoying moments where they had to like tell us through dialogue. And then also, again, like the making it a little bit more clear. I know it was probably a narrative structure choice for like the Peter Ricky thing, but making it a little bit more clear who you're reading from. And that would have maybe made it, because a lot of times I thought I was just missing something. Somebody said this earlier where it's like, oh, I guess there was editing errors, but I just thought I wasn't paying close enough attention to understand what was happening. And I agree. So yeah, that's what I would change.
That's fair. I guess it also is kind of different when you think about it, because I'm reading the book from a perspective of needing to have a conversation about it after. So I'm also reading it a lot more closely than I would an average book. So when I'm pulling out specific things, it's because like I can't help but notice them because I'm so honed in on taking notes and thinking about stuff. Yep. If I was reading this more casually, I also probably wouldn't have noticed he put his notebook in his pocket 3 times. So
yeah, I would say fewer characters. Like, I understand kind of having this like web of like families and stuff kind of intertwined through the book, but I honestly feel like the original like boys that found the treasure probably could have been cut down to like 3, and I feel like the story would have been the same and we would have been able to follow what was going on a little bit easier. I mean, again, Cass is really getting shit on in this, but remove her or just like add another reason for her being there. Like, is she secretly connected to one of the families and she didn't know? Or like,
yeah, I was waiting for that kind of reveal.
Yeah, or the family that she's, house sitting for is intertwined, or there's part of the secret is in that house. Like, something that made her character just like more important. So yeah, those are the 2 things for me that I would change.
Yeah, I need less characters and spread less across multiple generations. Very hard to keep track of how old is everybody, who's connected to who. And then if you're talking about like Dr. Oakley, okay, which Dr. Oakley? Because his son's also a doctor now. That was hard to keep up with. And then also sometimes we were learning things in the present timeline that then when we went back to the past timeline, it's like, am I supposed to remember that whoever's dad died when he was a baby? And then I'm trying to go back to the past, like, wait, okay, now who's the Archie died? I don't know. I can't remember who's who, but it's relying on both timelines information when you're switching between them. I was like, that's really hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I think other little changes I would have made, more of the dog. Maybe the romance could have been between Peter and the cop, but obviously they don't want to like put that through because Peter's not really Peter. So it makes sense in retrospect. More with the treasure. I just think more treasure hunting because I really liked that metal detecting scene. And I was like, let's have a little bit more of that. That was kind of fun. And then more pirates. Like, I don't know if I would have liked I know I wouldn't have liked like letters from the pirates or like historical stuff because then that's a whole nother layer of stuff. But I feel like for a pirate book that looks like this, it wasn't very piratey, I guess.
No,
Yeah, like more treasure maps.
there wasn't. Did we ever find out like there wasn't much about like where the treasure like actually came from originally? Like descriptions of like how it got left there. Did I miss that? Or I feel like there wasn't much about that, right? Like how it originally got there.
I feel like
They
there
found it?
was, and now I just don't remember. Like I feel like
Neither
there
do
was
I.
there was a description of like how the treasure got there and why they dumped it or something, but I
I don't
can't
know.
recall in this moment.
Was there a battle nearby, and that's why the pirates came out and hid the treasure there to come back for later? Maybe.
That might have been it, and then their ship like just went down or something.
Yeah.
It obviously felt like a very like not an important scene for us to not remember it, or just kind of like a battle that could have taken place in any book, so it didn't really stand out.
Was anybody disappointed that like the treasure was actually just like normal treasure? I was hoping like something else was gonna be in there, like that was a little bit more interesting, other than just like gold and jewels.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Like maybe it could have been a hint to something else, or like, yeah, or answers to something, or yeah. Okay. I think my next question is, would you read more from this author? I almost always say yes at the end of these live shows because I'm like, one book doesn't indicate how I'm going to feel about an author in the future. I think this is the first time I'm going to say no. I don't think I would read again. Unless like maybe in 10 years, if he wrote a ton more books, and because I like his ideas, but I don't like his writing, I think it would be hard for me to want to pick up something else.
I actually think so. While I was thinking about this question, I looked up to see like what he's written before or like what he has coming out. Apparently, he's also a screenwriter and a producer, which kind of makes sense to me. Like, I feel like a lot of this could have been like written for TV and it would have maybe like translated better potentially. But I did look at he had a book come out like last week, like very recently. And it looks interesting to me, so I would pick it up. It specifically is like called out as Nancy Drew meets Yellow Jackets, which I really enjoyed that show. So I don't know. I think I would. Probably just audiobook though, because I feel like I had a hard time like physically reading this one and paying attention. So I think if I was doing an audiobook like while I was doing other things, I probably would pick him up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would if he leaned into more of the dark elements that we kind of touched on in this book. Like, I think if he just dove into that piece of it, I think I would be interested. I'll say I probably wouldn't be like a true influencer on that one. Like, I wouldn't be the first one to pick it up. I would definitely see what other people say about it. But I mean, Nancy Drew plus the Yellow Jackets, that sounds really interesting. But again, it's like, are you going to lean more into the Nancy Drew or are you going to lean more into the Yellow Jackets with like the tone of the story? Because if you lean into more of the Yellow Jackets, I think I would be interested, especially considering like the twist that he pulled on us at the end and how it did get a little dark. So yeah, if you lean into the darkness, yes. If not, probably not. Yeah.
That was my original thought was, yes, I would read more from him if he went darker. But then I did look up that book that came out last week. And it's a group that they were like Nancy Drew teen detectives, but now they're middle-aged people and there's a serial killer in their town or something like that. But it just feels like it'll once again be a bunch of adults written very YA. So I was like, actually, maybe I won't read from him again.
Fair. Okay, my last question is book and movie recs. I would love to hear anything that you would recommend to people, whether they liked this and you have something similar, or they didn't like this and you would recommend something that does it better. Just quickly, I wrapped up the poll. Half of the people here pretty much gave it 3 stars. A quarter of people gave it 1 to 2 stars, and a quarter of people gave it 4 to 5. So there's very few 5 stars. But yeah, it seems to be landing 3 to 4, which makes sense to me. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, because like with a Vengeance, I feel like we read recently, and it's a mystery that I figured everybody would kind of like, and that has such a low average rating that I guess I don't know anymore how to predict people's feelings, because I thought everyone would hate this one. But all right.
I think if I were to give a recommendation, if you enjoyed this one, or really even if you didn't and you want to read something else like this, is Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books. It's by Kristen Miller. And it is basically kind of like the same setup where it's like a small town. There's these like rivalries that happen on the street. And someone has like Lula Dean has like a little library set up, and someone sabotages her little library and puts like banned books in there. So it's a good, like, I feel like it has a strong message of like that in itself, like what it means to ban books. So there's a lot of like undertones that I feel like are great messages while it's kind of silly on the surface. And then there's a mystery as well woven throughout. So I would recommend that one if you like this. And I can't help but also, I know we said book and movie, but a game plug if you like video games is I think that this has a lot of Tiny Bookshop vibes. I don't know if you guys have seen that game that came out, which is a great game, by the way. But you're following this like bookshop on wheels, and as you are selling these books in these various locations, you learn a little bit about the people that live there, and there is like a murder mystery in the game as well. So I think that the characters are very like quirky, like they are in this book. And yes, Tiny Bookshop is so good. I couldn't recommend it more. But yeah, that's like my two recommendations that I would tie to this book.
Love it.
Yeah, the only one I have is a show, which I think most people probably are familiar with, which is Only Murders in the Building. I feel like that show is also pretty cozy, but then some dark things happen, but people kind of just skate over it like it's not super dark with all the murders that are going on, which I kind of felt like happened in this book. I also feel like Only Murders in the Building, there's a lot of history kind of tied to the building and a lot of secrets and a lot of characters that are kind of staples in that community that sometimes are tied to these mysterious things and all of these deaths that are happening. I think Only Murders in the Building is written a lot better than this. So if you are wanting those vibes and just I recommend that one.
I just have a book for this one, and that is The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell.
Oh, yeah.
So not a treasure hunt, but it's a spinoff of the Great British Bake Off. It has similar vibes because it's a cozy mystery, or it starts that way, and then it gets a bit darker. There's some murders. And you also have the host of the show is a woman from a wealthy family, and the show is filmed at her family mansion. So we have some of that family history that we're looking into. And then it also follows a lot of different point of views, the contestants and members of the crew. So similar, but better writing.
You guys all had great ones. Okay, I struggled a little bit with thinking of something that is, I don't have a perfect comp for this, like a group of characters coming to one place to like hunt for treasure. Like I don't have anything like that. But I have like some cozy mysteries. If you read this and it was your first time, this wasn't a cozy mystery, but if this was the closest you've gotten to a cozy mystery, these are two cozy mysteries that I would recommend. They're series, A Deadly Inside Scoop and 2-part Sugar, 1-part Murder. There's like a character running a business and a death happens and they have to solve it. I feel like those are really fun. And then this one, Something in the Water by Catherine Stedman. It's more about a married couple, but they find something in the water while they're on a trip. And it's very oceany and treasury vibes. And then somebody also mentioned this in the chat, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, because it does have that. This one didn't have the found family that I was expecting. Like based on the synopsis, it sounds like 3 characters come together and they solve all these mysteries together. This is what that is, like a bunch of characters all come together who previously didn't know each other. And there are some deaths. And so that's a really fun one. I actually have the perfect comp. Like literally, if you loved this book, I have the perfect book for you to read next. I don't know how this is going to show up on the screen. It's called Murder at Pirates Cove by Josh Lanyon. I feel like no one has read this. It doesn't have very great reviews, but it's so similar to this book. And it involves more of a romance between a gaming character, which I think is what a lot of people appreciated here, is the representation of that. So that one really gets into relationships and has the treasure hunting vibe, and there's multiple murders, and it's a cozy. So that would be my number one recommendation. And I think that is all of my questions. Thank you guys so much for making the time for me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Fun.
And
Loved it.
next month, or this month, we're reading Futility. So we will be talking about this in like 4 weeks' time. So pick it up. The audiobook, I did not know, doesn't actually come out until like 3 days before the live show. So pick up the physical copy and get to it if you can. It's pretty short. And I obviously haven't read it yet, so I don't know what I'm going to say about it, but I'm very excited to talk about it with all of you for our final Literally Dead Book Club pick of 2025. And that's all for us today. So we'll see you next time. Bye.